Chapter 5. Thus all the work that Solomon wrought for the house of the Lord was finished. And Solomon brought in the things that David his father had hallowed, even the silver and the gold, and all the vessels, and put them in the treasuries of the house of God. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel, and all the heads of the tribes, the princes of the fathers' houses of the children of Israel, unto Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is in Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto the king at the feast, which was in the 7th month. And all the elders of Israel came, and the Levites took up the ark. And they brought up the ark, and the tent of the meeting, and all the holy vessels that were in the tent. These did the priest and the Levites bring up. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel that were assembled unto him were before the ark, sacrificing sheep and oxen that could not be counted nor numbered for multitude. And the priest brought in the ark of the covenant of the Lord unto its place, unto the sanctuary of the house, to the most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread forth their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim covered the ark, and the staves thereof above. And the staves were so long that the ends of the staves were seen from the ark before the sanctuary, but they could not be seen without, and there they are unto this day. There was nothing in the ark, save the 2 tables, which Moses put there at Horeb, when the Lord made a covenant with the children of Israel, when they came out of Egypt. And it came to pass, when the priests were come out of the holy place, for all the priests that were present had sanctified themselves, and did not keep their courses. Also the Levites, who were the singers, all of them, even Asaph, and Kaman, and Yedutun, and their sons, and their brethren, arrayed in fine linen, with cymbals and psalteries and harps, stood at the east end of the altar, and with them 120 priests sounding the trumpets. And it came even to pass, when the trumpeters and the singers were as one, to make one sound to be heard in praisings and thanking of the Lord. And when they lifted up their voice with trumpets and cymbals and instruments of music, and praised the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever, that then the house was filled with a cloud, even the house of the Lord, so that the priest could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the house of God. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. We are continuing now. We finished the building of the house, as we will find in verse 1 here, and the dedication begins, as we'll find, this great feast that's going to be held before the Lord. We'll go ahead and pick it up here in verse 1. Thus all the work that Solomon wrought for the house of the Lord was finished, or this all the work that Solomon had done. And Solomon brought in the things that David his father had hallowed, even silver and the gold, and all the vessels, and put them in the treasuries of the house of God. So after all the work to the house of God was done, and all this work that Solomon would do was finished, and Solomon is peace, and Solomon is this peace that God promised to send. Solomon brought in these things that David his father had hallowed. And these were all those things that David said of his own treasure. He said, I also have a treasury of my own of silver and gold, and give the amount, and even all this silver and gold that David had hallowed, this silver, all that which is passed through the fire and had to be refined, and all the gold represents that which belongs to God anyway, and that was a fine gold. All the vessels, all these things that David had gathered, and he put them into the treasuries of the house of God, into that which is stored up there within the house of God, or the abode of God, or that place where God dwells. 2. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel, and all the heads of the tribes, the princes of the fathers' houses of the children of Israel, unto Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is in Zion. And so now this would be the assembly that Solomon, he's gathered them up. Solomon assembles all these, and Solomon is the king, and he gets all the elders together, all these elders of Israel. Israel are those that contend with the Mighty One, and all their heads, all the ones over all the tribes, these would be the heads of their fathers' houses, these princes of their fathers' houses, they are called here, of the children of Israel, and these of all the tribes of the nations of Israel, all the tribes, those that contend with the Mighty One, unto Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is the teachings of peace, and Jerusalem refers to that city, even the city of the teachings of peace, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David. And this ark of the covenant is that which contains the law that was given in the beginning to represent that which contains the law, because God said he wrote it upon your heart even then, and to bring it now up out of that city of David. And the city of David is that place that's got a guard. A city always refers to a place that has a guard or a watchman, and this is the city of David. That David is that beloved, or the chosen one I call him, which is in Zion. And Zion is that parched place. It's that place that was parched. Zion is a marker. It's set there as a marker, even a parched place from before. 3. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto the king at the feast, which was in the 7th month. And this, all the men of Israel, all these ones that contend with the Mighty One, were assembled unto the king at the feast. And this would be the great feast where they are going to bring the ark into the temple. And this would be in the 7th month, and the 7th is that moon, or the portion of the moon that will accomplish this moon, referring to the lesser light. There's even a lesser understanding, or a lesser light that God give to rule over the darkness, and this would be the accomplishments of it, the perfections of it even. 4. And all the elders of Israel came, and the Levites took up the ark, and all of Israel came, and the Levites, because according to the law, see, they are the only ones who can bear the ark or carry the ark. We found this out when God reached out against Uzziah, and the Levites are those that join, that the joiners. Levi, it would be the joiner, and the Levites would be the plural for that, or the Levi, the Lephi, and that would be those that join. They took up the ark, and the ark is the covenant. The ark is that which represents the agreement, as we'll find out. 5. And they brought up the ark, and the tent of the meeting, and all the holy vessels that were in the tent. These did the priest and the Levites bring up. So they did bring up the ark. They got the ark, and they're bringing it up to the new temple. That with the tent of the meeting. Remember, the tent of the meeting, it was in Gibeon, and the other tent there that David had made in the city of David there for the ark, to house the ark. But they bring up the tent of the meeting, and that's the tent of the congregation that Moses had made. All the holy vessels that were in the tent, these did the priest and the Levites bring up. 6. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel that were assembled unto him before the ark, sacrificing sheep and oxen that could not be counted nor numbered for multitude. And the King Solomon, he is the king of peace, the peaceful king, and all the congregation of Israel, those that contend with the Mighty One, that were assembled, all these that were assembled unto him, were before the ark, sacrificing sheep and oxen. And this sacrificing is that they were slaying these sheep and oxen before going before it. These sheep represent the lesser cattle, or these ones who can be led, and the oxen are the greater cattle, even those ones that are used to pull the yoke. These represent those that do the work, the plowing and such as that could not be counted nor numbered for the multitude. I might add here that God never required sacrifice of this type. His sacrifice was required to make atonement for sin. Sacrifice was never required as part of a joyous festival occasion such as this would be. 7. And the priest brought in the ark of the covenant of the Lord unto its place, into the sanctuary of the house, the most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubim. And they brought the ark on up. This ark, it represents the covenant. It is the ark of the covenant, and it is a representation of that covenant. Even we'll find out that which God put in it, see, into the covenant. And they brought it unto its place, into the sanctuary of the house. And that is where its place would be, in that sanctuary of the house, or that abode, as we're going to find out. It also will have great representation, that sanctuary. And that is that sanctuary. That's that place set aside. It's going to have a purpose. See, it has a purpose. It's sanctified. It's separated. It's made clean and prepared for a purpose, to the most holy place. And that's the most holy place. Not just a holy place or a hallowed place, but the most hallowed place. And that's going to be where the ark will rest, even under the wings of the cherubim. And these wings of the cherubim, we found out that these are those things that spread out. This is like a border that goes forth around. It also encompasses those which these cherubim would go by. See, these wings, that which they would go by, their borders and edges which go forth, and we remember the measurements of them. They would go forth for the witness of the law and the redemption. There's 2 cherubim, one on each side. See, and under their wings, under their borders, under their limitations, see, would be the ark. These cherubim being those angelic beings, or the representing the ones who would be watching over this agreement that God made, or the examples of the holy examples which God give to set there that we could witness by. 8. For the cherubim spread forth their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim covered the ark and the staves thereof above. And these 2 cherubim that were set there, they spread forth their wings over the ark, over this place of the ark. And this is that place where they would set the ark. And the cherubim covered the ark, or they was over it. They was over the top of it, and the staves thereof above. And we remember these 2 cherubim, because they represent these other 2 cherubim that are over even those 2 that are on the box. They're on the lid of the box. See, even those 2. 9. And the staves were so long that the ends of the staves were seen from the ark before the sanctuary, but they could not be seen without, and there they are unto this day. And these staves are those things that they carried it. That, I believe that word's bod. Very similar to what we would say as bad. It would be those things that they would carry it by, and what they are, there's those things that could be pulled out and separated from the ark, and that's kind of what bod means. They are separate from the ark, these 2 staves that they carried the ark by, and that was to bear it up. They stuck out of the sanctuary, and that was that place that was the most holy place, that place that's set aside, and you could see them, but you couldn't see them from outside, even from the outer area. 10. These were nothing. There was nothing in the ark save the 2 tables which Moses put there at Horeb when the Lord made a covenant with the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt. And there was nothing in the ark there, these, except for except for these two tables. Now witness these two tables too, because there's two tables. There's two sets of the laws. These 5 on the one hand and 5 on the other. 5, see, that they don't do. 5 you do. 5 you don't. 5 they do. And that's the way it works. The separation God made even in the law. And this 2 tables that Moses put there. Moses, he was the lawgiver. He was the one who got the law from God. He was this one who was drawn out. He was the one who was drawn out. And God gave him the law there in Horeb. Horeb was that desert. See, that desert place, that dry place, that desolate place. Horeb means desolate. It was made desolate. And this would be that covenant. It would be that represents the covenant, that agreement they made there when they took up the covenant, when they said they would obey the law and keep the law. And God chose them, even the children of Israel, those that contend with the Mighty One. And they came up out of Egypt. They came up out of that place of enclosures, that place of pits and holes. It was the understanding of men then. It was the law of men then. It was the rule and order then. 11. And it came to pass, when the priests were come up out of the holy place, for all the priests that were present had sanctified themselves, and did not keep their courses. And they didn't keep their courses. We'll find all the priests came up out of that holy place. See, they came out of that hallowed place, that inner sanctuary. All the priests were gathered together. They didn't keep their courses. They had all come together for this feast. Solomon had gathered them together for this feast. 12. Also the Levites, who were the singers, all of them, even Asaph, Heman, Yedutun, and their sons and their brethren, arrayed in fine linen, with cymbals and psalteries and harps, stood at the east end of the altar, and with them 120 priests, sounding the trumpets. Also with all the priests, the Levites, those that would minister to the house of God, and in other ways assigned by the king according to the courses, their assignments as they was given. Even Asaph the gatherer. We remember Asaph the gatherer. Heman is the confirmed, or those that confirm, or the faithful, to be faithful and established in solidly. Yedutun is praisings. It's the actual praisings itself, and their sons, and those that come forth from them, with their brethren. And the brethren is to be those from the same mother, those born from the same understanding, those of like understanding even, arrayed in fine linen. And these would be those that are arrayed in this fine linen. Then that's those things that are woven tightly, woven finely, with cymbals and psalteries and harps. These cymbals, those things that are made of brass, they quiver, they shake. This is that quivering, cold, shaking darkness. The psalteries, this is what they are. They are this, and that which contains all of these harps, and these harps are those twangings. Those twangings, and these twangings represent like a memory, being called to remembrance. See, like a memory, these harps, these twangings, as they stood at the east end of the altar. And the east end that's where enlightenment comes. Understanding comes forth from the east end of the altar, that place where they slay. And with them 120 priests sounding the trumpets. And with them was this 120 priests. These 100, because it's judgment. See, 20. Witness the law, see. It's in judgment. That's redemption. That's redemption, to witness the law even in judgment. These priests sounding the trumpets. These priests, those ones who minister before God, are sounding the trumpets. They sound the trumpets. This is a warning. These horns, we'll find out, are warnings going out. 13, it came even to pass when the trumpeters and the singers were as one, to make one sound to be heard in praising, thanking of the Lord. And when they lifted up their voice with trumpets and cymbals and instruments of music, and praised the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. That then the house was filled with a cloud, even the house of the Lord. And it came to pass, when the trumpeters, those ones of warning, and the singers, those ones who are making this music, we'll see before God, were as one. They were as one, even in one accord, according to the way God said it, to make one sound to be heard in praising. And that was unto God, for God, we'll find out, they are thanking God, giving thanks unto God, for it was God's plan, it was God's set it up from the beginning. Then they lifted up their voice with trumpets. Those are warnings, cymbals and instruments of music. We'll find out these cymbals, that cold darkness shaking, these sounds that can be heard of from these instruments that do make the music of God. And praise the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever, because this is the way God gets his praisings, is through his order that he has set up, that he has established. That then the house was filled with a cloud, even the house of the Lord. And this house was filled with a cloud. This place where God abides was filled with this cloud. And that is even this confusion before God that's going on. Those both are rejoicing, both, because God caused it. Even the plan that he had established, even in the beginning, that he would cause even those that he sets over them to give praise unto him. 14, so that the priest and this cloud, it's that confusion. It's that confusion we can even witness God by in the daytime, that cloud of confusion that all the world goes by. 14, so the priest could not stand and minister by reason of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the house of God. So these priests could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the house of God. And we'll find out this confusion that I'm talking about is just how they should be ministering before God. We'll find out it has to be in accordance with the law of God. Always, God has made a new beginning. God has reestablished his kingdom. We'll find out this is a kingdom in judgment. It's a kingdom of peace. See, it's a kingdom of peace as well as judgment. We'll find out as we go on through. We're going to pick this up in chapter 6. Turn and return.